Welcome to another edition of the Real Social Proof Podcast, and I just really want to jump into this. Normally, I'll do like a little intro, but man, we got somebody who has been a true friend, a true big brother, even though younger than me, on so many levels, and just I've never met someone with such a genuine heart that is willing to help with absolutely no strings attached. And really just been a blessing. We got Mr. Inky Johnson. What's good, my brother?
My brother,
You all
I
right?
appreciate it, man. It's an honor.
Thank you.
First off, man, before we get started, you know, man, I love giving cats their props, bro. I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you, man. You inspire me, and it's an honor, man. It's an honor, brother.
Thank you, man. Just for those who don't know, I guess introduce yourself.
Yeah, man. Inky Johnson. Government name is Inky Johnson, but I'm a father, man. I'm a husband. Some would say motivational speaker. I look at it as serving, but you know, communicator, man. Travel the country. Former collegiate athlete. Had an injury that almost took my life. Ended up paralyzing my right arm and hand. It's led me to the journey that I'm on now.
So I guess kind of fast forward. I guess not everybody knows your story, but I'd love for you to like touch on the story of what happened.
Absolutely.
In your accident.
So what happened was, you know, my position was that of I was a junior in college, had aspirations my whole life of going to the NFL, and I had finally gotten into that position, and it looked as if it was about to manifest. All I had to do was play my junior season, and then, you know, by the grace of God, I was going to become an NFL draft pick, and things were going to work out. In the second game of my junior year, I went to make a tackle, routine tackle, and the crazy thing is, I had been in a lot harder collisions, like way harder tackles, right? This was just supposed to be tackle, clock run out, game is over. And when I went to make the tackle, I hit the guy, and it seemed as if every breath left my body and I lost control of my body. And when I hit the ground, I blacked out. Had never experienced that before. And when I woke up, man, my guys were talking to me like, Ink, get up, let's rock. And it was a shock going through my whole body, and I couldn't feel anything, right? And that was scary. And then the shock left, but it stayed in my right arm and hand. And they brought the spine board out, and it was all protocol to me, right? Like they're supposed to do this. They get me up in the ambulance, we're gonna take you over, run some tests. You know, it's football, things happen, you'll be good. And they get me over, they run their tests, they bring me back into a room. Mom comes in, kisses me on my forehead, cracks a joke, Ink, you'll be good. And when she walks out, doctor comes like jogging in and he's screaming. And he's like, you know, guys, get in here, we gotta rush this kid back to surgery, he's about to die. And, you know, part of me thought like he was joking, right? Or trying to make the situation more intense. And so I'm just like, man, like you can't use another word, right? Like use a synonym, right? Like die, right? Because it was cool, right? You just going through formality testing, and I was like, what happened?
You was awake or like?
Right, yeah, I was up. I was chilling. I was in the room at this point, and I was like, what happened? And he was like, when we were running a test, we noticed you had ruptured your subclavian artery, and you're bleeding internally. And so we couldn't see that at first. We're just operating, and they're doing their thing.
And you're chilling. It's just you feel the shock.
Yeah. I feel pain, you know, but I'm chilling. It's still. I'm thinking maybe I got a broken arm, a stinger, like something's going on with my shoulder. And he said we got to rush you back, take the main vein out of your left leg, and plug it into your chest in order to save your life. And he said, oh, I guarantee you, you won't be here in the morning. And I was like, let's go. And the next morning I woke up. I had 6 cuts down my left thigh. 1 cut across the left side of my neck, 1 across the right, twice through my right ribs, cut out my right pec, bottom of my armpit to the bottom of my hand, like a long scar, like from my armpit all the way down my arm. And I had 350 staples in my body. And he said when we went in to repair the artery, we noticed you had torn the nerves in your brachial plexus, which are the nerve roots that come from your spine. It controls shoulder, arm, hands, and fingers. And he said we had to repair that. And some of it we couldn't repair. And we got to wait until swelling, scar tissue, things like that go down. But he said your football career is probably over. And my career was done.
So this is obviously something you've been going after your whole life. but you came out on the other side of it.
Absolutely.
But like going through this process, I mean, to actually lose a limb, what's the mindset? And I know the story where you're like, yo, I'm going straight back to practice. Like
Absolutely.
just warrior mindset. But like, did you ever have a moment where you feel weak or vulnerable?
Yeah, I was disappointed, man, because I'm a loyal person. And so many people had helped me got to that point, right? Like I had gotten there with the help of coaches, teachers, right? So many people, parents, family members, so many people that sacrificed for me, right? That I was like, man, when I make it, like I'm gonna do something for them. Not that they came to me and was like, Ink, we help you,
Right.
you gotta do this. Nobody said that to me. Anybody that ever helped me, it was just like, it's on the strength. Just do what you do, pay it forward. When you get in position, help another person. And so my way was gonna be, when I make it, I'm gonna help them, right? The reason I went as hard as I went was because I felt as if it would be disrespectful, right, to the people that helped me get in that position for me to go into the football facility and cheat. I felt as if when I got to college, if I skipped class, it would be disrespectful to my mother that worked the double shift to help me get to college, right? And so when it happened, the disappointment was that, man, I probably can't pay him back, right? And so I was apologizing.
Hold on, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
You lose your arm, you lose your pec. You go through surgery, and the only thing you can think of is I'm not going to be able to pay people back.
Absolutely. That was the first thought. That was the first like feeling of disappointment, right? That was the first feeling because, you know, for me, man, I had been through adversity prior to that point. Like my childhood was full of adversity. And so it wasn't like quitting never popped into my head, right? I never been wired that way, right? To where when something goes wrong or I hit adversity at opposition, I just stop, quit, I fold up the tent, I go in a fetal position. I've never been wired that way, right? I've always been a fighter, right? Never been the cat that played as if he was the toughest. I don't gotta be, but if it goes down, like I'm not running, right? Like I've always been that cat.
Right.
And so for me, like I never even entertained that, but I wanted to repay the people that helped me get in that position.
So after you get through that, what's the resolve? Like you never, I'm having a hard, I feel like if I lost a limb, I'd be like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
It eventually, and I guess it kind of makes sense now just knowing you, that I believe you really thought like that because it's always somebody else first.
No doubt.
You know what I mean?
No doubt.
Is that something you develop or is that something through experiences? Where you get that from?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both because of how I grew up and my situation. So growing up to a mother that had me at 16 years old. She was young, she's figuring life out, being taken back to a 2-bedroom home, 14 people, right? And so in my childhood, it was a lot of things that people came along and did for me or put me in certain positions or introduced me to certain things, exposure, right? Paying for me to go on trips, doing certain things for me. And when it would happen, I would always feel like, man, they didn't have to do that, right? Like the coach that had me and my cousins in sports, he had his own business. He was already doing well. He didn't have to pay for us. He didn't have no feeling of entitlement to us. He didn't know anybody in our family, but he stopped and he did it, right? My 8th grade math teacher and basketball coach came in our neighborhood, stood on the corner with my uncle, right, who's in prison right now, and said, Ink, like you better than this, right? And I'm like, man, I hear you. He was like, I'm gonna just come pick you up in the morning until you graduate high school. I'm gonna play you in a game of one-on-one basketball. I'm gonna read you a proverb. He had 3 kids of his own. They had adopted 3 more from the Atlanta public school system. He didn't have to do that, right? And so when it happened, it was more so of the spirit of not that I'm putting somebody in front of me. It was the spirit of, man, they helped me and they didn't have to do that, right? And so I want to live my life to honor them more so than my words. I want to honor them with my actions. And so when the injury happened, it was more so of, all right, I can't probably pay them back this way, but the way I can honor them is if I take the adversity, take the opposition, and I still graduate, right? And I still do something with my life that can make them proud.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
So in that mindset, when you're working your whole life to reach this pinnacle of your career and you know you're about to get drafted and all that goes away.
Absolutely.
So where does your mind turn to? What's the next plan? Was it, yo, I'm gonna use the story to go speak? Am I going to start a business? Am I going to get a job? Like what's your thought process after that?
The natural transition was I'm just going to coach, right? And I think now, looking back on it, because, we always look back over something that we've been through, we can connect the dots. I think I was trying to control the situation because as people, when we don't know what's next, what do we try to do? We want to control it, right? If we go out of this building right now and we walk around and they say, hey, man, when you get up to the end, make a left. You're going to be like, what's at the left? Like, why do I need to make the left? I want to know what's up at the left. Like, we want to know. And so naturally in our lives, when we got to pivot, like we've all had to pivot, right? Whether it was a first business, some people first marriage, relationship with our children, something didn't go the way that we wanted it to go. And we had to pivot. And so I said, natural transition. I love the game. I'm going to coach, right? I started coaching, got into it. Like speaking was never even on the radar for me. Like I had never even thought about it.
Like during college you started coaching? Like while you were still there or after?
Yep. So I became a student coach first, and then I graduated, got my master's in 4.5 years total, right? So I graduated in 3 years, undergrad. I was a student coach for that 4.5 year. After I got my master's, I became a graduate assistant.
You got your master's in 4.5 years?
Yeah. So I went to college early, and I never really went home. So in May, when most cats would go home, I would just take an extra session, and then I would do summer session. And so when you stay, you can graduate early. Yeah, absolutely.
So you always had great grades, huh?
No. In
How
college,
you do 4? Yeah.
In college, I did.
Right.
In high school, no. No, man.
How you make that transition?
No, because
so
I was
think
serious.
of a high school athlete, like high school, they're not doing well in high school. Obviously, they go to college and they're struggling. How do you make that transition? Did you get better after your injury where you had time to focus, or what was that?
No, I had more resources, right? And so I was coming from Crim High School, which was at the time Atlanta Public School, one of the lowest performing public schools in the state of Georgia, right? And it wasn't that I didn't have great teachers. I had some great teachers, man, that helped me get in the position that I was in. I just didn't know. I was telling a kid this the other day. Like, I just didn't know about the process. I wanted to go to college. I had dreams of going to the NFL. When I met with my first college coach and they started breaking down core courses, right, the sliding scale, ACT, SAT, like, I just didn't know, right? And so when they were telling me, they like, you need this, you need that. And I was like, man, I ain't got none of that, right? Like, I got to do something. I just didn't know. And when I got to college, they put you in meetings intentionally and tell you the resources that you have. You got a building that's dedicated to you. As an athlete, you got tutors that's dedicated to you to help you. And so I was like, if I don't take advantage of the resources, I told the cats in the first meeting, I said, man, if any of us come out of here and we don't graduate, like, you can't blame nobody but yourself because you got all the resources that you need and you have the infrastructure that's trying to help you do it. And so when I got to college, I had the system, the infrastructure, and the resources for me to take advantage of it. And so I graduated early, and I was trying to make it to the NFL. That was my plan, to graduate in 3 and go to the NFL.
And after you graduate, you're coaching, obviously, then you leave, and then what?
Absolutely. So when I was in my 3rd year of my graduate assistantship, I had an opportunity to go out to California, had another opportunity to go to LSU, just as like a quality control, as like a step down from a coordinator, so in a coaching sense. And right around this time, my major in undergrad was political science. My master's was in psychology.
Okay, I got you.
And so when I get these opportunities, my wife was still in Atlanta at the time, and she was teaching. And so I would be going back and forth every time I got a gap. And she called me, and she was like, I'm pregnant, right? And I was like, whoa.
You got married at this point?
Yeah, man. And
how old were you when you got married?
I was 24. My wife gonna kill me, man. You put me on the spot. I don't remember. 24, I think. Yeah.
How long were you together before you got married?
You know, we had been on and off.
Right.
You know, together ever since we were kids, man. Like 5th grade.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? We've been at it. Like, even when we weren't together, we were together type of joint, you know?
Right.
And when this happened, I went into my coach. I remember telling him, I was so nervous, right? I was like, man, I was in his office, and he was like, what's up, Ink? I was like, yeah, man, somehow my wife got pregnant. Right? I'm nervous, right?
One thing led to the next.
I'm nervous, right? And he was like, somehow? I was like, yeah. And he was like, nah, man, I get it. And I was like, but I really want to go back and, you know, be there for my family, right? I don't want my children or my wife to have to deal with what I dealt with growing up. And he was like, no, man, you should go. be there for your family. And I called the guy in Atlanta at the time that was over Atlanta Parks and Rec. He picked up, I was like, man, I need to come back home. I need a job. I'm coming back, I want to take care of my family. And he was like, no problem. I was like, can I work at the rec center in Kirkwood, like in my neighborhood? I want to work with the kids that's growing up the way I grew up, right? I want to create leadership curriculums. He was like, no problem, right? And I pack up my stuff, I moved back, I call him, never answered, email, never responded, went up to the center.
Supposed to get a job,
Supposed to get
call
a job.
him, and he just not answer.
Blank, right? And so I'm freaking out because I'm in my wife's grandmother's home, 2 blocks away from where I grew up, right? In a bedroom at her grandmother's home, right? And so I go up to the center, tell them, hey, I'm Inky Johnson, you know. They like, give me your resume. I provide it to them. They're like, you overqualified. I was like, what's that? Like, I just want to work. I just want to work with the kids. You know what I'm saying? They're like, yeah, man, we can't do anything for you. And so at this point, I was like confused, right? And that was the first time in my journey I had been confused, right? To where I was just like, man, like, God, I don't know what's up, right? Because I felt as if, okay, I came from this neighborhood. I'm in the exact same neighborhood I grew up in. Yeah. I came from this neighborhood. These people helped me in this neighborhood. I got to college. I got a step away from making it to the NFL. I get injured. I start coaching. And God, you bring me right back to the same neighborhood I grew up in, like 2 blocks away from where I grew up with nothing. And so I'm back at ground zero in my wife's grandmother's home without a job, like with probably $250 or more to my name. I'm like, God, what's up, man? And like every morning, bro, my wife would get up and I would get up, get dressed, we would pray, and I would go look for a job, right? Like speaking was never on the radar. I was still doing community service, but I would go look for a job. Like I was trying to work because I felt as if, man, I need to provide for my family. And we had our daughter, Jada.
Was your wife working at this time?
Yeah, she was a teacher.
She was
Absolutely,
a teacher.
Yep.
So why didn't you just take one of the jobs and move your family somewhere else, to wherever you was going?
Yeah, because my wife didn't want to move because, you know, my wife lost both her parents when she was young, and she was raised by a grandmother. And so her grandmother's getting up in age, and, you know, she's the one that's there for her grandmother. And so she was like, I don't want to leave my grandmother, and grandmother don't want to leave either.
Right,
like she's not trying to leave and move out to California or Louisiana.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, cool, well, I'll come to you. And when I came to her, she was working, and I was trying to get a job so I could try to build us a life. And people would say to me, I would go to community service events, and just naturally because of my arm, you know, somebody would be like, hey, man, what happened to your arm, right? And there would just be question after question, and I would look up and like, everybody would just gravitate like, oh man, that's cool. And I wasn't trying to speak. I wasn't trying to captivate an audience. It was just natural and genuine. And then when we would leave, cats would always be, hey man, you might need to look at speaking. And I'd be like, nah, I'm cool on that. I ain't trying to do that. And one day, Gerard Mayo, he's the linebackers coach for the Patriots, one of my best friends. And we were talking one night, and I was like, bro, like, and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, you know? I'm trying to find something that's fulfilling and rewarding. He's like, man, you need to speak. It was like, bro, you need to pray about it. And we went through spiritual discipleship together, me, him, and our other buddies. And
during college, right?
During college, yeah. And I prayed, bro, and I kid you not. Like, I prayed about it, and it was simple, man. Like, I wasn't no deep dude. I was just like, Lord, I don't know what you want me to do with my life. I was like, people are saying speak. Like this is like how low I was, right? In terms of life, confusion, not knowing what was next, right? I was like, people are saying speak. I'm talking about what people are saying. Not even what I'm saying, not even my intuition, not even what I'm feeling. People are saying I need to speak.
What year is this?
Right?
Thinking back, what year is this? Because this is before speaking was cool.
Yeah, yeah. It was early 20s. It was early 20s, right? I wasn't 20, it was early 20s. And I was like, people are saying speak. I was like, if it's speaking, I'll be obedient and let's rock. I was like, I just want to do something that's fulfilling and rewarding. I want to impact and I want to take care of my family, right? And I'm still getting up, right? And at this point, when we got married, I had finished my book. I wasn't doing anything with it. I just had a book. And people would hit me up from time to time, just word of mouth. hey man, I met Jeffrey in Knoxville. He told me you got a cool story. You should come down and share it, right? I was like, all right, cool. And that's when I got the trip to Mississippi to speak, right? That was my first trip. And I drove, bro. It's a 15-hour round trip. And I got back home that morning, like 2, 3 in the morning. And my wife was waiting up for me. And she was like, how did it go? I was like, man, it went great. Like, I enjoyed it. Like, it felt right. It was cool. And I was really listening and being intentional at this point to everything, how I was feeling, what was going on. And she was like, what did you get? And I was like, he gave me this cool coffee mug, right? And she was like, you know, she looking like, what? You sure? This what you supposed to be doing? I was like, yes, ma'am. And she was like, go for it. And bro, that from that point.
So the time that, from the time where, you know, like you're at your lowest and you decide to speak, because back then, I mean, especially us, we didn't know speaking was a career.
No,
like that.
not
Like
at all.
there was Les Brown, of course,
Right.
and then, you know, you had some dope people like Tony Robbins or, you know, Jim Rohn,
Absolutely.
these people, but we didn't speak.
No.
Where did that plan come from?
No. For me, it started as something that felt right. Like, because when I got that trip to Mississippi.
But were you doing it thinking, yo, if I'm a speaker, I can make some money?
No.
I can really?
No. I was doing it because it felt right. And I felt as if I was helping people, right? Like when somebody would say to me, like a dude said to me once, he was like, man, I saw your story on the news. And he said, I got a wife and I got 3 daughters. I'll never forget it. I got a wife and I got 3 daughters. And he said, I was about to leave. Life was kicking my butt, right? And he said, I saw your story on the news. And I said, if this guy can laugh at what he's going through, right, and hang in there, surely I can hang in there with my wife and my 3 daughters. And I was like, man, if I represent that to people, I got to take my life a little bit more serious, right? I never saw my story as anything special. I never saw my life journey as anything special because the cats I was growing up with, they were dealing with similar thing, if not worse.
Right.
But I never just thought like that. I never thought, I'm going to share my story and it's going to impact people. I never thought like that. I just felt like, man, I'm doing what's right. It feels right to me. I'm able to impact somebody along the way. I think this is what God wants me to do. I'm going to be obedient. Yeah. Like for me, in that time period in the beginning, it was strictly about obedience, right? Because in the Bible, it says obedience is better than sacrifice. But for most people, what do? We judge the level of sacrifice without first being obedient, right? We want to know, what is it going to cost us? For most cats, if they got $250 in the bank, they're not riding to Mississippi, right, to go speak, and they don't know what they're getting. They're not doing it because they're judging the level of sacrifice. Talking about, I got two. No, I'm not driving and spending my money on gas and spending my money on food and coming back, and I got a family. And if you break it down, that's probably the right thing to do if you look at it with certain logic, right?
Right. I was thinking, I'm not going.
Like, yeah, if you look at it, but it was strictly about obedience. And I think now, because of the position that I'm in and the opportunities that I get, it was birthed from the obedience in the early years, right? I still do the same thing. I still operate by the same values and principles. It's just on a lot bigger stage, right? The audience is a lot bigger now, but the obedience is the same way.
Did you give up on your goal to like pay your family back, right? That was a big thing. And in this situation right now, it seems no way you're gonna be able to take care of it. Right. So like, I know this was like crossing your mind. Like,
Absolutely.
I mean, at some point I want to be able to take care of my family, but it doesn't seem like. And again, you wasn't even looking at speaking as a way to financially become successful.
Absolutely.
You was like, yo, I need to make an impact.
Absolutely.
On somebody. So did you give up on how that was going to happen?
Yeah, it's almost as if just the dialogue changed, right? Like they told me, like, bro, you don't have to pay us back. We just want you to do something with what you've been given. We just want you to pay it forward. Now, I wasn't thinking so much about being able to pay them back. I was thinking more so in terms of, I want to honor them with what I'm doing. I want to honor them with the way that I represent them. I want to honor them with the way that I deal with people. And so for me, with the people I was dealing with, that was paying them back. Yeah. How you carry yourself every day, how you treat people. When we meet people that have encountered you, how they speak about you, right? That was their return on investment. Right. And I think through that, the byproduct of that is one day you will be able to pay them back, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So walk me through strategy on living this amazing life. Because some people look at you as a speaker, but I'm able to like know you like the behind the scenes where you're doing way more than speaking on
Right.
like some huge level. So
Right.
you go speak. The one time it's obviously you take an L. 'Cause
Absolutely,
you spent more than it took.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
sorry, moving forward from there, like where does this strategic mind come from in planning out your next step?
So I'm the type of person, the way that I am. So if me and you were together and you said to me, hey, Ink, I created this board game, right? And I think it's pretty cool, man. And I got a dope strategy that I feel it could help some people, right? Like I feel like it can do it. And you say, hey, Ink, I want you to look at this, man. Just check it out. Tell me what you think. So the way my mind works is I'm going to look at it 100 different ways, right? I'm going to test it every way that I feel as if it can help somebody. I'm going to try to figure that out, right? Everything about it. And so for me with speaking, when I said, okay, I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to do it full tilt. Let's go. Let's rock. From a communication standpoint, it was a privilege for me, right? Like every time somebody said, we wanted you to go speak, I was like, man, they want me to go speak, right? Like I'm still that way.
You still get excited?
Oh man, I get stoked, bro, because somebody is actually asking you to come and speak, right? Just think about just that simple fact of somebody actually wants you to come to where they are and they want to hear what you have to say because they feel it's valuable, right? So I'm like, man, people actually want to hear what I got to say. Okay, let me break it down. How can I be both efficient and effective in terms of communication to make the biggest impact while I'm in that room, right? Not just speaking, right? Whether it's tone, whether it's understanding the emotions that they want to feel. What do they want me to get across when I'm on stage? What's the feeling they want the audience to leave with? What are the points that you want me to touch on? What is it that's important to you guys that you think can bridge the gap? Are there any filler words? Are there anything that you want me to touch on that you feel, man, if you say this, if you touch on this, that's really going to connect with them, right? How can I do my due diligence in terms of a preparation standpoint? First and foremost, they've asked me to come and share, right? They value what I have to say. Most importantly, God has trusted me with an amazing opportunity, right? Like it's an amazing level of accountability with what we've been called to do. That's how I feel about it, right? That you have the art and the ability to say something and it can change the way literally somebody thinks, right? It can change the way they go back in their household and they operate with their wife and their children based upon what you have to say. Like God has trusted you with that, right? And so making sure I'm not arrogant, making sure I'm never in the place and space of I'm taking for granted the opportunity that I have, making sure I'm doing my due diligence so when I step on the stage, I understand what's at stake. That's way more than a speaking engagement, right? When people come up to you and like when we were at the conference and your guy was talking about the weighty loss, right? And you used that as an example. Bro, that was one of the most powerful things I've ever seen in my life, right? Because you not only inspired him, you changed his life. Like you changed the quality of his life and he valued and trusted you enough to do it. You know how many people probably came to him and was like, bro, you need to lose some weight. And he was like, man, whatever. Like, I hear you. You might be right, but whatever. I don't value what you got to say like that. So whatever. But when you said it, right? When you said it, like God trusted you with that position and knew when Dave say this to him, he going to get on the right track and never missing that. And so for me, it was about the art of communication, the art of understanding behavior science, the art of understanding preparation, the art of understanding when I come into a room, what am I trying to accomplish, right? And at first when I started speaking, I just wanted to kill it. I just wanted to dunk, right? It's like I'm balling, and you get the rock, and you little, what you want? Man, I want to dunk, right? Then you go from the dunking to, bro, I just want, and one, right? I'm the mixtape. And then you start to learn strategy. Then you start to understand the game. Then you start to understand how to make plays and get people involved. Then you start to understand the structure of it. Then you start to understand, okay, you might then score on that play, but you made the play happen, right? Because of how you operated. And so it was about understanding how to operate and how to function, but never taking that responsibility for granted. Like, bro, I still get hyped when people ask me.
Oh, man,
Yeah.
I think I literally, and just knowing you all this time, I think I really, truly right now understand why you're one of the greatest speakers in the world, because it's not about how can I be a better presenter, but how can I best serve this, like finding out what this audience needs. Let me tell you the illest thing that ever happened. So this was 2017. Was that the first time we started the tour with ET? Is it 2017?
Yeah, I think it was 17.
So I'm sitting there, we were in the back room, I'm sitting there, I'm going over my notes, and you're sitting to the left of me, I'm here, I think Nehemiah was to your right. I remember the scene. I think Quest was like across from us. But you said, yo, what you gonna speak on? So I'm like going over my notes, sharing my notes, right?
Yeah.
And I think you had your notebook too, and I said, what you gonna speak on? He was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? And, yo, I remember it so vividly. And this moment like changed my life as a speaker. And I said, well, it was strange to me because I'm just curious. I'm like, all right, you got notes. You got some sort of direction. I think you're like, you're playing with me. You're like, no, I'm not studying right now what I'm going to say, but how I'm going to say it. I'm studying I'm studying the emotion that I want to draw. I'm studying like how to pull from the audience and how the audience can best pull from me. It was the craziest thing. And I didn't understand it for a while after you said it.
No doubt.
But it was, after that I realized you are a true student of speaking. Not what you're going to say, but how to control an entire environment. And that's a whole nother level.
Absolutely.
So I got so many questions on how you develop that hunger and how you got away from just wanting to dunk, because that's a maturity.
Absolutely.
So how did you start to mature? Was it just repetition or a mindset change?
Yeah, it was both. But so when I would get opportunities early on, I was getting opportunities from everybody. So I'm at the Boys and Girls Club. I'm going to birthday parties.
Was it based on your story, or like you just kept killing it and everybody kept saying,
No. It was based upon I wanted to speak as much as possible, right? Because I felt as if the more reps I would get, the more I would develop in terms of a communicator. So it wasn't about money at this point. It wasn't about fee, nothing. I was taking everything, right? And it was solely based upon me trying to develop my skills, my structure as a communicator. So we would talk to cats. I got $700. All right, cool. I got $1,500. Cool. 25. Cool. 1375.
1375. Taking everything.
I had numbers like crazy. Cat be like, how you get to that number? $873, right? Everything, right? And I knew sometimes cats would feel like, man, I got a deal. And I was cool with it. Like I wasn't stuck on none of that. I was trying to develop. So a cat would hit me like, can you come speak at the birthday party? I'd be like, cool. Can you come to the country club? It's women from the age range of 60 to 70 years old. I'm like, bet. I spoke at it was a government thing in Knoxville. I don't know what you call it, man, to where when they're certifying the people to come, the immigrants, right? It was some type of immigrant certification, right? They hit me up. I was like, bet, right? I don't know a lick of Spanish or nothing. I was doing everything, right? And the reason I was doing it was because I knew I couldn't go into those rooms and navigate and speak the same way. I knew that. I didn't know much about speaking, but I knew I couldn't approach every audience the same. I knew I couldn't approach a football team with the same energy with the ladies that are 60 to 70 years old. And so what I was trying to figure out was, how do I navigate these different audiences but be just as effective and just as efficient with my communication? What are they looking for? And so it was about challenging myself. And for most people, when they start doing something early on, they want to play to their strength. So if you got a right hand and you could dribble, what hand you going to put the ball in? I'm going to put it in my right. And you might got 10 vicious moves from the right, that you feel as if, man, can't nobody stop me. And then you're going to play against a cat, and what he going to do? He just going to line up on the right and be like, no, you got to go left. And you going to try to go right. He just going to back up. You got to go left, right? And then after a while, if you don't develop that, you're going to be stuck and you're going to be limited, right? And so for me, when I would go into these different rooms, go into a birthday party, go into a church, go to a football room, go to a corporate event, what I was learning how to do, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about anything. It was solely based upon me and my ability to learn how to communicate and navigate. learn transitions, right? Learn how to do different things. What emotions did I notice get pulled out when I used this story, right? And so I was basically just collecting that. It's like when cats box. You meet some cats, they come out and they swinging as hard as first round. They trying to knock your head off.
Right.
Then you meet some cats that are nice. They know what they're doing. A Floyd Mayweather, he ducking, he collecting data, first 4 rounds. Then you just see him murder and annihilate the opponent, right? Because he got everything he need. And so for me, early on in my career, I wasn't one of the best. I knew that. I was learning. I was speaking in every environment I could speak in. But now, you could put me in any room on any face of the planet. You could give me any assignment. And I'm more than confident that I can be effective and efficient in getting that message across to whatever audience it is.
Dang, your level to experience delayed gratification is insane, bro. Like, you're just going, speaking like, yo, I just want to learn more crowds, different audiences. And us as speakers, and like literally, you're talking to me too. Like, I grow every time I talk to you. But like, at some point, especially when you start getting paid, it's like, oh, you got to pay me now.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
And we were actually talking at, it was something you was doing in Atlanta a couple months ago. And you said something to me, and you was like, man, a lot of cats just want to speak and get paid, and they get too good for the free gigs. He's like, yo, I'll still go speak.
No doubt.
And it really convicted me because earlier that week, I had a conversation with somebody, and they wanted me to come, and I didn't go because, like, they weren't trying to put anything together.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, just in a transparent moment, it was convicting. And ever since that day, I said, yo, if I want to do what Inky's doing, I got to do what Inky did. Meaning, I got to go speak as often as possible.
No doubt.
In this story right now of how you're able to delay gratification, knowing that it all accumulates in the end, is absolutely amazing.
Absolutely.
With no slide, you don't need no slides. Like, if the slides break, it's over.
Tell
me the story too. You were speaking one time, and my man's whole life was ruined.
Oh man, I'm telling you, and I experienced that. Like what he's speaking to is, I remember being in a room, and a cat had some slides, and he started off, and he was rocking, and it was shortly into his presentation, and the technology went out. Like, he couldn't use his slides. And my man just was like, I can't do it, right? And he walked to like the corner of the stage. He's like, I can't do it. And they was like, what do you mean you can't do it? Like, we paid you. Like, you just go up and do something, right? He was like, no, the slides, like, I can't do my deal, right? And they was like, what do you mean? He was like, technology went out. I don't have my slides. I can't do what I do. And he didn't do it, right? And the man came to me and he was like, Ink, can you go? I was like, yeah, I'm cool.
All day long.
Let's rock, right? And to me, like, I've been in rooms where the powers went out, literally. And I was the last presenter, right? I'm watching people go, lights on, they rocking, they playing music. And as soon as I get up and say, I want to thank, boom, power goes out. Everybody freezes. I tell a dude, I say, hey man, can you pop that door in the back? Can you pop that other door and pop this window? Light comes in and we rock. Right? I kid you not, I was speaking at Arkansas State. I was watching the program unfold. I kid you not. As soon as I get up to speak, I see a guy get up from his table. I'm peripheral. I see him get up and he's walking. My man just falls, hits the ground, right? When I turn, something is going on with him. I can't see from the stage, but something is going on. People start running. Hey, get the ambulance, this, that, and the third, right? I'm still at the podium, right? Some people are sitting down. Some people are attending to him. I'm like, man, I'm at a university, right? Like, prayer. I start praying, right? Not trying to be on no spiritual stuff. I just felt it, right, on the mic. I just felt it in my heart. Like, man, something serious is going on with my man, because they calling for ambulance, this, that, and the third. And I felt it in my heart, and I just wanted to be true to what I felt. I start praying for him. Afterwards, they get him up, get him in the ambulance, get him out of there. I get done praying. I go take my seat. president or whoever it was gets up after me, thanks everybody for coming. Everybody starts to dismiss. He came to me and he said to me, I think you were orchestrated and put in this position just for that. He said, I don't know if anybody else could have handled that situation the way you just handled it, right? And so for me as a communicator, it's about being skilled, right? It's about being effective, but also it's about understanding and being sensitive to the climate in the room, right? And so for some people, we've both seen it. They'll go in and they'll talk to some old ladies, right? Not saying old, but, you know, mature in age. They'll talk to them with the same energy and passion that they'll give to a football team, right? And it'll scare the life out of them. You can't do that, right? And so for me, being a student, understanding the climate in the room, but also trusting my intuition. Like, I think that's something that E is phenomenal at, man. Like, you see him and like we all know E is a phenomenal communicator, like second to none, phenomenal. But I think one of his greatest traits is he understands the climate in the room, but not only understands the climate in the room, he has the courage to trust it and go after it, right? Like, he has the courage to step up, and you'll think E is going in one direction, he'll go a totally different direction and murder it, right? And I don't think that's something that a lot of people can do. Not that they can't do it, but the fact that they're not sensitive enough to it and understand it. So if they're not sensitive enough to it, they're not gonna have the courage to follow it.
Man, I think that just speaks a lot to the difference between developing as a speaker and developing the speaker, the actual person, like the person you are that can handle the situation.
Absolutely.
But my man with the slides, he was developing as a, like he worked on his presentation.
Absolutely.
And if I ain't got that crutch, it's over.
Absolutely.
It's over. So how many times a week do you speak? Or how many gigs per year do you do?
So, man, I used to do, like, and when I first started out, like I told you, I was just speaking a lot. But one year I did like 170 gigs. Like, I'll never forget. Yeah, let me tell you, I'll never forget, because me and my wife, we always do a little overview at the end of the year.
And when was this? What year was this?
This was a few years ago.
Oh, so this ain't
running.
This ain't the $2,000 gig.
No, this was a few years ago. I was running, right? And I'll never forget, me and my wife sat down, and she was like, you were going a lot this year, right? And that's all she said. Like, and me and my wife, we know each other, you know, inside and out. But what I was doing was, I was trying to get to the point that I'm at now. And I knew, okay, if you want to be intentional about getting to that point, you have to run and you have to go. You have to go as much as possible, because you want not only people to know you, right? I'm still not well known, but you want to develop, right? So you can be able to be in a position, you can command a lot more, but also you can be just as effective and efficient and make them feel as if they're getting more value for what they're paying you. And so now, you know, I base my schedule around my wife and my children, right? Because I'm in a different situation, both in terms of the type of business that I do, but also from a financial standpoint, because I've been speaking for a while now, and so I'm in a different position. But years ago, I wasn't, but I was intentional about getting to this position and knew I wanted to get in this position. And so a lot of my trips now, like we were talking about, they're day trips. And so I'll get up, I'll go speak, and then I'll come right back home. Like, I very seldomly stay the night. You know, I do it here and there for different requests, different environments, but I very seldomly do that. Back in the day, I used to do it a lot, right? Because I was running to get to this point. I didn't start here, and I'm still building, because years from now, I don't expect to be running the way that I'm running now. And so I'm being intentional about the landing place that I want to be at, right?
Gotcha.
So,
I got a couple more questions. Well, I have a million more questions, but kind of dig into like some of how you develop these business relationships, because I think a lot of people don't know like the behind the scenes businessman you are, like on a whole nother level. So how did it come together with like your partners and, you know, kind of like some of the wild stuff you got going on?
Yeah, accountability, right? Accountability groups. And so when I was in college, me and my roommates at the time, it was me, Gerard Mayo, Robert Ayers, Ramon Foster, Sinclair Cannon. We were always big on accountability, right? Just holding each other accountable, talking to each other, checking up on each other. And when, you know, they went to the NFL and one of them didn't, Sinclair didn't, we still all kept in touch and would check on each other when they got kids, got married, check on each other, and we would meet, right? And so at these meetings, twice a year, we would just talk about life, and they brought up the element in terms of, they say, hey, Ink, man, we want to do something from a legacy standpoint to take care of our wives, take care of our children. It's like, all right, bet, what y'all have in mind? And so they brought to the table some investments, right? And at the time, it was just investments. And, you know, they had the same financial advisor at the time, a guy that I was cool with, you know, just from a business standpoint, helped me develop some LLCs, different things like that, mentored me. And went to him, talked to him about it. It was like, cool. And so we got involved from a business aspect in, you know, these hotels and assisted living facilities.
When was this? When was this?
This happened when I was 25. Yeah.
So it's like right after the accident.
Yeah, 25. Yep.
So you're broke at this point.
Absolutely.
So how did
Barely.
you? So
Barely
you just
broke.
had a loyal group that said, "Yo, Ink,
Yeah.
we got you."
Yeah. And so it wasn't at the time, like, so my injury happened at 20. This happened around 25.
Oh, so you was 5 years in.
Yeah. And so I was still broke, though. I didn't have nothing. and it was just accountability. And when we brought this to the table, it was basically, they were in the NFL heavy and they wanted to do it, right? They were like, okay, if we do this, Ink, we want to make you managing partner. And so you got the opportunity to go to the meetings, you got the opportunity to learn the business, you got the opportunity, you cut the checks, you over all the accounts, and we're gonna give you a different percentage for every deal that we do, right? And the return on investment, right? We got you. You go to the meetings, you're our man, you're the managing partner.
Right, so they're busy.
I'm
you got
managing
time.
partner. Yeah,
They got money, no time.
Yep.
You got
I'm
no money,
managing
you got
partner.
time.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
managing partner. I go and basically I go to the meetings, I learn the business. So when we go on our 2 retreats a year and we meet and we present, because that was one of the elements of our business. We wanted to learn everything about what we were doing. We didn't want to put any money into anything and not learn it. We never wanted to give a cat some money, be like, all right, go do the deal, and we out, and we'll just get the return on investment. We'll just get our money back, and cool. No, we're going to 2 meetings a year. We're going to meet with the guys we're investing with, and we're going to learn the business. We're going to break it down. We're literally getting on a whiteboard, learning the business, right? So when we invest, we know what's going on. But I'm the managing partner, and so throughout the year, I'm going to the property, right? I'm going to the Hilton H2 Suites hotel that we got up in Knoxville. I'm going to the assisted living facility. When they're breaking ground, they're doing a room and they're picking the tile color. I'm going to all that. And at the time, I had that type of time, and we did it, right? And it was a beautiful thing, because that's a legacy piece that we're still involved in until this day, right? That we're still getting checks from until this day.
Yeah, it's like every seed you planted before just shows up, because obviously they made it to the NFL.
Absolutely.
And you didn't, but the person you were, the character that you had, they said, yo, we can't trust nobody with the money. We can trust Ink.
No doubt.
Just
Absolutely.
based on the seeds you planted and the person you were. Like, you are so personally developed, and one of the most personally developed people I've ever met in my entire life.
Thank
like
you,
the
bro.
way you just carry yourself, and you're the same person. Well, you like chill when you talk about what you get passionate in that story on stage. Yeah, if you just talk to Ink and like you just having a conversation, you're like, man, he's such a nice young man. He get on stage. Yo, boom.
Yeah,
So,
no
all right, cool. And I got a bunch of questions. Obviously, I wanted to go into how you got with your book, like that whole situation. I remember that story.
Absolutely.
You got can you touch on that real quick before we wrap up? Okay,
absolutely.
cool. So you wrote your first book.
Yep.
And some weird stuff happened.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it and the guy that helped me, you know, he did a great thing for me at the time, because we were self-publishing, right? And so I wasn't really in a position like that, and he helped me. And you know, there was a few of us involved. The guy that would ship him, you know, that we trusted, that would help us, you know. And when we created the company, you know, the deal was, okay, Ink, you pay me back, and you good, right? Because the guy was well off, right? He was an attorney, well off. And so we started doing the things with the book. Book started making money. And I'm the type, I didn't want to get any money until my partner at the time was paid back, right? I didn't want anything from it. And so I wouldn't take anything. We was out making a lot of money.
You
right?
the delayed gratification
I'm
king,
like,
bruh.
He's like, Ink, you can get you 10,000. I'm like, nope, I don't want nothing. I'm giving you all your money, then I'm rocking, right? He well off, like, man, multi-millionaire. So we do it, pay him back.
And he's got bread. And you're
Oh
still
yeah,
like,
he
yo,
loaded.
do you?
He loaded, right? And we doing what we doing. We out, moving with the book, doing deals. And so my man that's shipping, you know, great guy at the time, doing what we do. We had then gave him a card, right, to the account. And so we doing what we doing. And some books started like getting low, but also in the account, right, things would get, you know, a little shaky, right? And so would ask him about it from time to time.
So we're like running out of books and running out of money,
It
which
wasn't
doesn't
adding
make
up,
sense.
right? It wasn't adding up. The book count and the money, right? Because the way we stashed our books, it was American Book Company, and the owner of that was a friend of mine, great guy. He let us do it for free, like, because he's well off. Man got like 4 airplanes. Like, he's just a person, just a good-hearted person.
Right.
So we met doing some work in inner city Knoxville. He's like, Ink, you can stash your books here. And just things weren't lining up. And the guy that we had, the point person, he was the only one that can come in contact with that, as well as had the card with the money. Yeah. And so when things would line up, I would just ask him. Like, I wasn't accusing him or nothing like that, you know, and I would just be like, hey, man, have you seen this, that, and the third? And he'd get defensive, right? And so after a few times of getting defensive, I was like, all right, man, we just got to cut it, right? We just got to cut it, card, everything. And I went up one time to get some books for an event, and the lady was like, I gave him to, I don't want to say his name, you know, on camera. Such and such, he came up and got the rest that was here in a van. And I was like, no. And I couldn't fault her because that was the system.
Yeah, for sure.
That's who she was used to, coming to get him, do what he did. So my man, just to be spiteful, he came up and got him. We locked down the accounts, but that wasn't a problem that he got the books. That wasn't a problem. The problem was the file that the book and the information was on. And you got to think, at the time, I was young. I wasn't paying attention to this. Yeah. I was just doing it, trusting. I wasn't covering my bases. Right. The way I think now, that would never happen, right? It would never happen the way I think now. Right. He got the file. And when they did the information early on with the printing company that we did it with up in Virginia, yeah, my name was on the book, but on the information with the transactions and the things that were getting paid for, my name wasn't on that. You see what I'm saying? Or with the file, right? And so when I went back and I was just trying to give them the bread to print some more, and they was like, yeah, you got to have that file, but also your name is not matching up with the people that did it, right? And so I couldn't do it. I was in a position to where I'm trying to hunt my man down, and my man basically done fleed. Now, I've had different opportunities to come and do another one, and to be honest with you, with where I am in my life, man, and, you know, I've been blessed, man. More than anything with the guy, it hurt me, bro. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not even on no, at first, I was like, man, I see my man, like, man, like, I'm about to play my, hey, I'm gonna play myself off the street with him, you know what I'm saying? But it was like, the way I've been blessed, bro, it wasn't on no, like, if he would have came at me and been like, Ink, I'm going through something, I need something, like, bro, it's just money. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just money, bro. Like, you could get that. Just on my man was in my Bible study group. Just on the strength, like, bro, you could get that. Run with that. Like, you my man, like, it ain't that deep. Like, I don't just cherish money like you come, no, man. Oh, bro, you going through something, you can get that on the strength. We'll get that back. You know what I'm saying? Like, I believe life works. I believe in reciprocity, right? And so now I still haven't caught him. You know what I'm saying? Thanks. And it's you know what I'm saying? It's all love, man, you know? And I plan on releasing another project. I've had people approach me about book deals before. And so, you know, but when I do it, I'm self-publishing, I'm controlling everything. Gotcha. Got the means to do it and everything. But at the time I was young, and my man did me a solid, and I paid him back, and I was trusting the individual, and he did something that was spiteful. And so I'm sure he'll come back around, and I'm going to hug him,
He's
bro.
got to see what's going on right
Yeah,
now.
he see it, and it probably scares him.
Yeah.
You know, he probably thinks that I'm in a different space that I'm not in. You know what I'm saying? It'll be all love. You know, like, bro, I'm blessed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I won already. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about financially. I won when I made it out of Kirkwood to college. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I won already. I won when I was able to help my mother. I won when I got married, had my 2 children, and me and my wife is in the household. I won already. You know what I'm saying? It ain't about that. And so for me, bro, I know I'm going to get what's coming to me. It's all G. You know what I'm saying?
Amazing, man. Look, I know you got a really busy schedule, and I appreciate you have no idea. One, you opened up Social Proof last year, and I was just telling them, I've never, like, we had, like 30-something speakers, and like almost every review said my favorite was Inky Johnson, and you went crazy. Like, again, I had so much going on, and like when you were speaking, it arrested me.
Wow.
Like literally, and until this moment right here, I couldn't explain why you've been my favorite speaker for a long time. Remember, I told you that like at CJ's house,
no
like,
doubt.
yo,
Absolutely.
top 3 of all time, right? But I couldn't explain it. It was just like a feeling that I get when I hear you speak. And you just continue to show up, man. So I like to make predictions as my final question. Where do you see yourself doing or accomplishing over the next 5 years, so that I can look at this video 5-10 years from now and say, wow, Inky said he was going to do that. And look at, I got the footage. He said he was going to do it. So what do you see yourself doing the next 5-10 years?
I think that I'm going to be one of, the top, communicators in the world. I think that for certain. But not only the top communicators, I want to be one of the most effective, because there's a lot of people that know how to speak. It's a lot of people that do a great job, but it's not effective, right? To where there's no conviction with it. But also, man, I just want to be an all-star father and husband, bro. Like, I'm gonna tell you something. Like, a cat said something to me in the airport, and he was like, man, bro, like, you like dismiss a lot of stuff. Like, you just so easy going. Like, give me some of the, and I don't think people understand. Like, when I went through what I went through with my arm and almost losing my life, right? And, by the grace of God, I came through that. What it showed me was, like, bro, you're not in control of anything. Like, look at what happened with Kobe. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know it's a piece that's sensitive, it's unfortunate. All of the families involved, man, rest in peace, condolences and prayers. But you're talking about a guy that did that for 17 years. 17 years. I've been playing football from the time I was 7 to 20 years old. And I think for most people, I call it, when they become, or have a certain level of success, they become so arrogant that they're foolish, right? To think that they're entitled to something, to think that they're guaranteed something, to think that, oh, I'm just going to get this and whatever. That's why when you asked me when I first walked up, said, Ink, what's up? I said, bro, just taking it day by day. You know what I'm saying? And that's real for me. You know what I'm saying? Every single day it's about waking up and being the best father, being the best husband, being the best servant that I could be. Because I almost lost my life. You know what I'm saying? Paralyzed my right arm. Man, I live with this every day. All right, this ain't something that, like, every day is something with my children that they like, Dad, let's do this, and I can't do it. Not that I can't do it, but physically, I can't do it. It puts you in a different space from a perspective standpoint. And so for me, I just hope I'm in the position to where whatever life brings me in 5 years, I'm in a position both mentally and physically and spiritually that I can handle it with the perspective and say, all right, cool, God, let's rock, I'm good, right? Because for most people, they can't say if life brought them something that they didn't expect tomorrow or next week, that they'll be the same individual, have the same perspective, and speak the same. And so for me, it's about making sure the soft skills are right, making sure the perspective is right, making sure the heart, the intuition, the genuine spirit is right. And so in 5 years, wherever I find myself, I pray that I'm both effective and efficient, but also I pray that I have my perspective, my spirit, and my mind and my heart intact. So whatever life throws my way, I'm still the same individual.
Man, hey, I appreciate you, my brother.
No
Please let everybody know, how they can get in touch with you.
Absolutely.
If they want to book you. I'm this new booking manager. Okay.
Yeah, it is. You heard it. You heard it. You heard it.
But yeah, go ahead. Let everybody know how to get in touch with you.
It's inkyjohnson.com. Inky Johnson on all the social media handles. And man, from the bottom of my heart, bro, thank you so much. Not only for interviewing me, man, but all the platforms, all the content you put out into the world, I think is dope. And I told you, man, like early on, we was on tour together with E, doing some of the things. Like I told you, I don't think it's anybody that can do what you do. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, man. And, peace and blessings to everybody that's putting out positivity in the world. Blessings on the journey, man. I wish you nothing but the best and all success.
Appreciate you, my brother. Make sure you follow my brother Inky Johnson's journey.
Yes, sir.
Peace.